Hello and welcome to the only fandom where we're used to starting in the middle and going from there. I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Max.
And this is Force for Thought. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to the first normal episode since Ahsoka started. We're not. I would love to say we're not recording the night of Ahsoka, but that's not entirely true. Cards on the table. We're recording this an hour before Ahsoka episode 8, the finale, premieres. I want to put that out there in case you're like, why aren't you talking about Ahsoka again? It's because Max has a vacation, and a deserved vacation from this podcast.
We're gonna look so stupid when Ahsoka goes to Burger King in this episode.
Don't rush it. So today we're doing
cut that. I'm sorry. I want to have a better reveal for when we talk about Burger King.
Which is only in 2 seconds. So while we were away is what this episode is called, and it's because for the past, a lot has happened in Star Wars in the past 8 weeks or so, 7 weeks, and we haven't talked about much of anything because the only thing we've been talking about is Ahsoka, because it's been on all of our brains. And before we kind of hop into these kind of mini sections of what has happened throughout the fandom, whether it's, us eating a certain fast food chain restaurant during every episode of Ahsoka, whether it's new Black series or Sideshow collectibles, or whether it's the Lando show, now movie, we have to jump into the thing that we have all been digesting literally for the past 7 weeks, which is a fast food chain that Luke Taylor came up with this idea that every week we'll get the same exact fast food chain, and then for my idea was every single week we'll get the number 1 for the first episode, number 3 for the third episode, and we'd consistently do that. And so, Luke, I feel like you are bursting at your seams to talk about this. So, do you want to kind of take over this?
Yeah, I want to justify myself because I know it's an outlandish idea, and you guys were not quiet about that. But my thought process was there are certain experiences that are tied to certain memories in my life. Like a certain album that you listen to on a vacation that when you listen to it, you think of that place, or like a certain food you always used to eat somewhere, and when you think of that food, you think of that place, and vice versa. And I wanted to artificially create that experience by having the same consistent food every week of Ahsoka. And so I wanted it to be something relatively easy, but that we don't eat very often. And so fast food, but it's got to be something we don't eat very often. So it's got to be a bad fast food. So we went Burger King because no one just goes to Burger King. You got to have a reason to get Burger King. And after 7 weeks of having Burger King every week, I can tell you exactly why we don't go to Burger King that often. It was not good almost at all.
It was
ever.
Well, the thing was, it was the same 2 menu items, slightly different from each other every single week. And honestly, every single week, I was looking forward to it for the first couple of weeks. I was like, oh, I'm so excited for a Whopper, right? And then after every week, I'm like, I am Wednesday mornings just full of sodium, feeling terrible.
Yeah, so weeks 3, 4, and 5, we got a variation of the Whopper.
Yes.
And weeks 6, 7, and 8, we got variations of a chicken sandwich.
The same thing, next to no difference.
Very minimal difference.
Whopper-wise, we got the Whopper, the Impossible Whopper, and then the Whopper Jr. And chicken sandwich-wise, what did we get?
We got the crispy chicken, the spicy chicken, and the bacon and Swiss chicken, which is the one that we just had just now because we're recording it the night of the season finale of Ahsoka, so we all literally just ate the bacon and Swiss chicken, which was probably the best one.
Yeah, I'm sitting on that bacon and Swiss chicken, and it was good. I'm not going to lie. That one was definitely the best. We also had the Burger King, which got extra points for a great name because, hello, and it was just a regular Whopper with bacon, and it's like, why don't we just eat like this every day? Why are we messing around with all these other menu items? We know what the good thing is.
We wanted to be thematic. I liked Matt's idea a lot. For the third episode, we had the number 3. This is the 8th episode, so that just happened to be the number 8. It was a great idea. The problem, and here's my beef with Burger King, and maybe fast food in general right now, is that you can't actually just Google what's the Burger King number 8, because I think it changes so frequently.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's also different in different places. So I couldn't find it after a lot of looking it up on the internet and trying to. I'm like, this has to be a simple Google search. I don't know why I cannot find this.
I know what you're thinking, listener. Go ahead and Google it right now because he's not lying. Because 10 minutes ago, we had this exact same conversation, and I said, no, you're just stupid. Now you Googled it. It's not there. I don't know what to tell you.
And this should be by zip code, even if it's different.
You can
find...
find...
they track our location.
Exactly.
Burger King knows damn well where I'm sitting right now.
I found these pictures online of like just like physical pictures of their menu, and I was like, okay, this is fine. I'm zooming in, and it's items that I know that they don't even have anymore. So I'm like, this isn't accurate.
It's the black bun Whopper.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's always like something weird like that, which for some reason they always want to make like the number 4, and then it just like changes up the entire menu, everything after that. So I'm
That's
like,
a
I don't know what the
tack
number
on.
8 is. So for the last couple of weeks, I had to call Burger King's and just ask them. I said, what is your number 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is? And my other gripe, there's the word.
I like grape.
My other gripe with Burger King is that nobody answers their phone. I called so many Burger Kings just to ask them, what's your number 7? This was last week now. And nobody answered. I literally called 4 different Burger Kings.
Oh,
It was the 4th Burger King that finally answered.
And to put us in this perspective, you're calling in order to place an order or to like online, presumably. You're like, hey, what's your number 7? And then you're going on their mobile and ordering it.
I'm asking them, and then
Okay.
they say like, oh, it's the spicy chicken. I say, thank you, great. And then I hang up, and then I just go on the app, and they have like under the chicken section, they have the spicy chicken. I just
Okay,
do it
that
there.
makes
That is
sense,
so
'cause
convoluted.
I
That is
was
so annoying.
I was wondering why you were calling. If you're just like in preparation, nervous, it was going to be something you didn't like.
No, because well, we were doing this for like 7 weeks straight, so I got an account. I have my rewards built up now, which means I'm going to be eating Burger King at some other point in the near future, which
Oh, this
I
is how they
promise
get you.
You know what it's going to be? It's going to be during our Ahsoka rewatch in a
In
couple of
1
weeks.
year?
no, in a couple of weeks.
We're going to forget all about this, and someone's going to propose the Ahsoka rewatch, and we're all just going to be like, oh yeah, I happen to have Burger King too. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, I can guarantee you that the next time I eat Burger King, I'm going to be like, ugh, Burger King? Well, Ahsoka was pretty good though.
I bet, listener, when you clicked on this episode, you were not expecting a mini Burger King review.
Yeah, why are we talking so much about Burger King?
I don't know, but aren't you glad we are?
It's especially frustrating because it's not like any of us even enjoyed the Burger King. It was
No.
pretty
No.
disappointing in its own way every single week. Whether it was the service, the fries, a couple weeks we thought,
The
the
fries.
fries were bad every time. Let's just get onion rings instead. And the onion rings were not great.
Yeah.
They're onion rings, so
Somehow
it's like
worse
fun
than
and
the fries.
different, but
The onion
they were
rings
not good.
Are undoubtedly maybe my favorite onion rings, and it's just gone downhill so much. And maybe it's because we're a little cold. We aren't eating this necessarily the freshest. I mean, Luke, you live like 20 minutes away or so. I guess I live 20 minutes away from you, so every time I bought it, I did go over your house. So
I
think-
just realized that earlier today when I was talking to Luke. Actually, I found out that reason Luke said this was because he lives close to a Burger King, which I did not realize. I feel like Matt nor I live very close to a Burger King, so it was more just of a nuisance to us as well. Like I feel like we
Yeah.
passed 6 fast food restaurants
pisses me off, Luke.
significantly closer than Burger King.
the Burger King I have to go to is 5 minutes the opposite way from your house, and then I have to backtrack literally past my house. I see it going back.
Yeah.
Like I'll see Lynn go get the mail as I'm driving back.
That being said, despite none of us liking Burger King, the experiment I'd say was a success. The next time I have Burger King, I will undoubtedly think about Ahsoka.
Yeah, but now when I think of Ahsoka, I'll think about Burger King in turn.
That's
And I don't-
interesting which way that's gonna go.
No, it won't go that
it a
way
two-way
because we're
street?
always going to be thinking about Ahsoka, but
Every-
we'll very rarely think about Burger King.
Every time I see Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, I'm like, I feel bloated and like I just need like water. Like my mouth is full of salt.
Did I just eat an unsalted, undercooked French fry?
But that's our review of Burger King and kind of our experiment. And you know what? If you want to comment or send us an email or anything, please give us your suggestions of what we should do for the Acolyte or Skeleton Crew coming up as well.
Yeah, the leading options right now are baking bread or cooking eggs.
I am not
every
baking
week.
bread though.
I do not want to bake
no.
bread every week.
If-
That is such a chore.
if
I don't
it's-
want to bake bread 8 weeks in a row.
If it's bread, it would have to be just bread. Like 1 week we'll have a like a Reuben sandwich that's on rye. The next week we'll have like the sweet basil bread from Panera or something. I don't think we can bake bread. You can bake bread.
All right, we'll workshop that idea a little bit more.
Yeah, we shouldn't do it on pod. We can do this later. Much more important things to talk about. And
I
so
cannot
far,
bake bread for the record though. I would like to.
I mean, I would love to as well. I want to get back into baking. Also, the Great British Baking Show just came back on, and I'm loving it. Moving on now to things that are more important and more focused, which is on this podcast. Maybe we should have done the Burger King review last.
I feel like all of our listeners just hit like fast forward 15 seconds, and now they hit that part. They're like, okay, good. They're finally done talking about Burger King. But you're wrong. I have one more thing I want to say about Burger King. I'm just kidding.
Okay,
Well,
I was really excited.
I was
to
gonna
see
say that's
that
what I
was.
do when I am listening to a podcast and they get to the scripted advertisement section where they're like, this episode is brought to you by Squarespace. I'm like, fast forward until we get to the end. But yeah, we are not sponsored by Burger King, and we probably never will be because we do not like them.
Once they get a wind of this episode.
Yeah, if the king is listening right now, he is putting us on his naughty list.
And Force for Thought will never sell out. Well, we'll see how good the offer is.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, he is a
someone
king.
flashes money.
No, not just a Burger King. Just anybody. Oh God, we're so...
2 years from now, we're going to be talking about how great Burger King is. And someone's going to be like, those bastards.
We're wearing crowns. Anyway, moving on to The Acolyte. So I want to talk about The Acolyte trailer leak. This is, yes, the trailer from 6 months ago that also leaked online, but yesterday it like fully did a leak, and you can't find like any trace of it even on X, formerly known as Twitter, or like anywhere. It's just completely wiped from the internet. Has anybody watched it, whether it was yesterday or whether it was 6 months ago?
I saw bits and pieces. I think 6 months ago I might have watched the whole thing, but because it was shoddily recorded on someone's sleeve at Celebration,
Certainly.
It feels like you're only watching bits and pieces anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if I listened to it with audio. I did not get much out of it. Basic
interesting.
tone of the visuals.
Yeah.
Stuff looked cool. Jedi. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna watch the show anyway. So.
Same. Max, did you get a
I don't-
chance or look at it at all?
I didn't get a chance to see it at all. I don't even think I saw it 6 months ago or so. I know nothing about it.
I did not see it 6 months ago either. I thought this, it's crazy. This is the second leak now of this. I mean, again, this was fully just like online. The other one was like someone's, like phone recording. I thought like two different things while watching this, and one of them was more about the actual visuals and about the actual trailer. With that being said, I also stopped watching it because I'm like, I just want to experience it. I love every morning when I wake up when a Star Wars trailer releases, I see undoubtedly a text from Luke or Max, mostly Luke, and it'll be like, this came out, right? Or I'll check like Facebook or something and see it. And I love being able to wake up, put my noise canceling headphones on, and like watch the trailer completely just like secluded and like just in that moment, listening to the music, seeing the visuals, and then going on and texting you guys and analyzing it the rest of the day. So I really like that. So I only watched a little bit of it until realizing I don't want to spoil this for myself. But the visuals I thought were really cool. It gets me really excited. It's something vastly different. We're going to be talking about Knights of the Old Republic, and in turn, it feels like more of like the Knights of the Old Republic. It feels like a lot, like you said, Luke, like a lot of Jedi, right? We see also like a yellow lightsaber, and then it also has this very samurai vibe to it. I know it kind of feels like a dojo when they're like when they're meditating, trying to reach out to the Force, the younglings. It has like this brightness to it as well, so it literally feels like a samurai film where it's not like dark and moody. It's very different. We usually see the Jedi in a very dark and moody scene every time they fight, and this was very bright and blatant and very different, I think, in contrast from anything we've seen, really. And then just to have that amount of Jedi as well actually looking like they're going to fight and not just be younglings or so, just like in the prequel trilogy. So I'm really excited for that. Because, again, there's nothing that we've really seen.
Did you learn anything plot-wise? It's assumed that the Acolyte is a Sith Acolyte, and it's going to follow villain as kind of the main character. Do you know anything about that?
From what I've seen, no. There seems to be obviously the main villain seems to be a female, I would assume, potentially, or that's one of the main characters they were focusing on, in contrast with all like the younglings and then the Jedi teacher and stuff too. But I didn't. Again, I stopped watching it like
Was there a
35
release
seconds in. I did not see a release date, but that was another thing I was going to bring up, is that Skeleton Crew was slated originally, which we've talked about a little bit, I think mostly off pod, for this November.
Skeleton Crew, for the listeners at home that don't know anything about it, because it has not been advertised or even talked about by anyone in the Star Wars fandom, it's a live-action TV show, full budget, on a similar par of Ahsoka and Kenobi and Andor, and it's really flying under the radar. And yeah, like Matt was saying, it's slated to come out soon, and there's just no chance it's going to.
No, that was my other point, and that's another topic I was going to get to later on, but which is called Skeleton Crew or lack thereof, and that's true. So kind of wrapping both of these things into one is that Skeleton Crew slated for November, no word on it whatsoever. It stars Jude Law as well as like the main guy, and that seems like a bigger kind of push, and they could be halting just until the SAG strike is over, just to see if he can promote it more or something. With that being said, it's Star Wars. I'm not sure how much more promotion you need than it's Star Wars. They're doing the same thing with Ahsoka right now, and it's obviously doing very well.
Right.
Ahsoka has the benefit of name recognition, though, where a lot of fans of the animated shows, and I mean her short appearance in Mandalorian, mean that people are already familiar with
Yeah,
that
that's true.
character.
That's true. And she has
Skeleton Crew-
lightsabers, so even if you're not, you know it's a Jedi in Star Wars.
That's true, yeah.
Skeleton Crew's just people. They're not even Force users, as far as I'm aware.
Presumably, but that's the thing. We know nothing about it, and I'm sure that's why, other than having Star Wars slapped on it,
Yeah.
I'm sure that they want Jude Law out there telling people about it.
And with that being said, they do have, I believe they had a Skeleton Crew trailer when also at Celebration when they showed Acolyte as well. And so the Acolyte trailer leaking is my only, hint that is going to come out sooner than Skeleton Crew, because presumably that's like kind of locked and ready to go. And now I'm expecting that to be like this week or next week, maybe the actual trailer to drop. I could be vastly wrong, but that just gives me that hint versus Skeleton Crew. Again, mum's the word on it. We haven't heard about it in 6 months, and it's supposed to be released next month now. I kind of forgot it's October, to be honest.
I remember when after Celebration, everyone was talking about the Acolyte trailer and nothing almost at all about the Skeleton Crew trailer, because it's all new and unique characters, and so as far as the trailer goes, it's not that much to get excited about. It was early in production, relatively speaking, so it wasn't like a full final trailer. They just put it together for Celebration for the people there, and so there's not as much to get excited about. But like the Acolyte is taking place in the High Republic, so a lot of the High Republic fans were really into it. Vanessa Rowe is going to be in the Acolyte, who's a character in the High Republic, so it was really cool seeing her, and just the imagery with Jedi with lightsabers and Coruscant. It's a lot more attention worthy.
But it's what's interesting is the Andor season 2 trailer leak as well. What reminded me a lot of like the Avengers original trailer, where they shot a couple of things in Cleveland and then they shot some stuff in LA, obviously, and then the trailer was basically some voiceover work and then one scene, right, when they're in the ship together. And it reminded me a lot of that for the Andor trailer, where it's just a lot of people walking, a lot of power shots.
I didn't see the Andor trailer either.
It was another like a leak from Celebration 6 months ago, and so
why are these leaks coming out just recently?
I think it was from 6 months ago.
Oh,
like that trailer was leaked. Max, did you said that was leaked again though, or no?
I just saw it yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
Coincidentally, though, before we talked about this, I didn't.
Yeah,
the Andor one.
So maybe it's been out for a while. I don't know. Yeah.
Either way, it's not.
But it was
new,
exactly
right?
what you just described, though. Like, it is just like a lot of like different shots of walking and voiceovers and everything.
Yet, I'm excited though, because like that's the thing with Skeleton Crew. Though I'm not surprised is even with that trailer, it's like we know none of these characters, but that's what Star Wars is about: is not knowing any of these characters and being excited to see them. Do you remember when Finn popped up in the Force Awakens trailer? We're like, oh my god, who is this?
Yeah.
A stormtrooper without their helmet?
That was a really
Like,
exciting trailer.
Exactly.
Moment.
And so it's like for me, the trailers always are like so exciting because you know nothing about the characters, and then that's what it's supposed to do is make you intrigued and fall in love with that music, and then you get the setting. For me, with the Acolyte trailer, for watching like 30 seconds of it, I'm so excited to see that setting because it looks vastly different than anything that we've seen so far. Same thing with Andor. Even Andor season 2 looks different from Andor season 1.
Yeah, this is giving me a lot of thoughts now that I'm thinking about that Finn trailer from The Force Awakens. We should do a whole episode about trailers, because the Last Jedi trailer was so good, and the Rise of Skywalker trailer was bad, and it was really upsetting to me.
You didn't like the Rise of Skywalker trailer?
It spoiled the whole movie. It had Luke's voiceover from the one scene Luke is in. It had the People's Fleet showing up on Exegol, which is like the emotional climax to pose.
Yeah, but you know that's gonna happen.
You know it's gonna happen, but you can't show it in the trailer. It's the climax to Poe's character arc.
I think the Rise of we have to talk about this later. There's too much to talk about.
I
But
have
I
a lot of
disagree
thoughts
so
on it.
hardcore. And also, I think that the Rise of Skywalker trailer theme is maybe the best trailer song that they've ever done. It's so emotional.
It
It's
is
so
a good song,
impactful.
yeah.
It's so good.
That's
But that, you could still hate the trailer and like the song though, so that doesn't really matter. So maybe I can eat my words, but I don't think I will, but we should do. That's a great idea, Luke. I love that episode idea. Something that about the Acolyte thing that I just want to mention, and this is kind of thinking more existentially versus the actual trailer itself, is that I think as a Star Wars fan, and we're in such an interesting place where I want more Star Wars, right? But something I don't want to happen, and I keep talking about and kind of bashing the MCU, and to be completely honest, from 2008 to like 2018, I was very in the MCU. I mean, I enjoyed it. I never read the comics or anything, but I like the movies. I like that lore. It's fun. It's something Max and I and our friends would always go to see all the movies and stuff together. And it was a lot of fun. And I liked that a lot. We can theorize, and it's a blast to do. And so there's nothing knocking the MCU necessarily, but something I don't want to happen with Star Wars specifically. And one is like what Kathleen Kennedy keeps saying is that she wants to make an event, which has now become, the Ahsoka has become an event, which is great. And I want them to keep doing that. And I think another part of it is I just don't want them to come out with too much too quick, which is where I think the animated shows can kind of fill that gap a little bit versus having so much. And I'm so excited to see everything. Like the Acolyte, I'm like, oh my god, more Jedi. That's awesome. Like it literally feels like the Knights of the Old Republic, but like in a different era. And it feels like there's so much, Andor, different grittiness, right? We have Ahsoka. We have so much to look forward to in Skeleton Crew. We have all these IP and all these new shows. But my worry is, I'm excited to see all of that, but I don't want to see all of it so fast. And then all of a sudden, as a fandom, from 1977 to 1999, there was only, really 3 movies. And then from 77 to 2005, there was only 6 movies. So most of our lives, there was like 6 of these Star Wars movies. And now we're getting Star Wars shows every year. And my only worry is I don't want to dilute it by being so excited to see the next thing. And part of me is obviously like, no, I want to see it all. But like, I wouldn't mind spacing it out just a bit. Because I've been dying to see Knights of the Old Republic since the game. All I want to see is a bunch of Jedi, right? And we haven't seen that yet, really. In the same regard.
I absolutely agree with you, and I hope Star Wars is learning some lessons from the MCU. I will say a couple of the key differences, in my opinion, because I too have fallen off with the MCU quite a bit, for 2 reasons. One of them is the whole multiverse thing, and it's what kind of made me nervous about the world between worlds to begin with, because we didn't know how they were going to use it. Theoretically, time travel could be incorporated into the world between worlds, but I think Dave Filoni has made a big deal about how that's not what it's intended for. That's not how it's supposed to be used. And I think that's a good thing, because the reason for me for falling off with the MCU is the multiverse. It doesn't give anything any stakes anymore. People can be introduced, people can be killed off, and none of it matters. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was super fun, but they introduced Professor X, Captain Britain, John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. They all died within 2 seconds, and none of it meant anything, because it's like, oh well, there's a million of them in a million different universes. So it's like, okay, well, I don't see a reason for me to be attached to any of this then. The other key difference, I think, is a lot of the name recognition with some of these Marvel heroes, and it seems backwards to me, their approach with giving certain characters TV shows as opposed to movies, because they give their bigger characters like Spider-Man movies, because Spider-Man can put people in the seats and they want big box office returns on Spider-Man, but that means that we as an audience are only spending 2.5 hours with Spider-Man, and then they give us these TV shows with 8 episodes of She-Hulk or Captain Marvel, and it's like, well, we don't, or Ms. Marvel I should say, and it's like, we don't care about these characters as much as Spider-Man. So I think Star Wars does have an advantage where they can incorporate new characters, and they can make us love them just as much as we care about the characters in like the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, I think that's a really great call. I feel I agree. Sorry, Luke, I thought you were going to show me something. Luke's, for the listener, Luke is holding up a notebook, and I don't know what it says.
It says, "I have a force for thought" at the end of the episode.
That's from last week, though, right?
It is, but I saw it there, and I do have a force for thought at the end of the episode.
Okay. I thought you were just showing me, like, okay, like Max wrote that last week to signal. Yes, I. Okay, that was so sorry.
Didn't work out as well as I envisioned it.
No,
in my head.
I'm so sorry. It threw me off my game.
Just to put a bow on it, though. So I think the MCU is kind of stuck with, having to use the characters that they already have. The MCU can't really create new characters. They're going off of comic book characters, and now they're just going deeper and deeper and pulling out more and more obscure characters, whereas Star Wars is at liberty to create, and I think that's a big leg up on the competition.
And it's an odd thing where I think Star Wars in its current state, there's a lot of people like us who love it, who watch the animated shows that are like being rewarded, like we talked about. But there's other people like one of our the composer of this show, Josh Van Der Zijden, or my brother Mike. They both don't care about Star Wars anymore, which is like so odd to me. And it's because it's not necessarily fully because of this. And I'd love to actually figure out why they don't and talk to them about it more, maybe on this podcast. But there's this sense of they haven't watched that stuff, and they feel like they're almost being like mistreated or something. I feel like in a weird way for a fandom. Where I think one of my new coworkers was talking about how she doesn't know much about Star Wars, but has been loving Ahsoka. And so to me, it's like, I think you have to come into it not thinking like you're being betrayed or something in a fandom, and just being like, yeah, you can enjoy this as well. And it's so odd because I think as a fandom, any fandom, but like, once you're given something, you're like, I don't know if that was as cool as I thought it was, right? And so like Knights of the Old Republic, for example, again, since the video game, been like really interested in seeing that. And the same thing with like the Kessel Run, but then we see the Kessel Run, and then people like for some reason just forget about that cool sequence, or like don't think it lives up to what they thought it was going to be. And so all these things I think can culminate to, again, like, your expectations are just going to set you up for failure. I think if you have them too high, or if you think that your idea is going to be better than what's being presented on screen. But again, not necessarily worried about Star Wars, and that's the direction it's headed. But like, I don't like having, I feel like there's some conversations been creeping up to like, oh, how do you like Star Wars? Kind of in that direction they're going, and I would like them to. I'm excited every single time something comes out, but I wouldn't mind taking a 6 month to a year break now after Ahsoka, to be honest.
And Bob Iger made statements recently about that oversaturating the market, and I think he talked about it a lot. I think it was in the context of the MCU, but I think he said like Marvel and Star Wars, and so he kind of looped it all in together. So I agree with what you're saying, and I think that is something that Lucasfilm is definitely conscious of. They don't want to do too much too fast and oversaturate the market and not turn out anything of actually superb quality.
Yeah, and when you have shows like Ahsoka, when you have shows like Mandalorian, they're going to keep going, and there's going to be multiple seasons and more seasons, and you can tie things in. And I feel like the slate of having potentially 3, and they've already cut back the slate so much in comparison to what they announced a couple of years ago. And so I think having like 3 movies is a great plan. Again, unknown of when they're going to come out or how far away they're going to be from each other, but I think that's a really great call. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. Again, it's a game you're going to lose eventually if you're just trying to pump out content that's quality and keep the viewers around, especially for the Star Wars fandom that has been around since '77. So you're trying to treat old fans and new fans alike, and that's a really tricky thing to balance. But I think, Max, like you said, I think they're doing it right. I think they're going to continue doing it right because the MCU luckily has paved the way and has started to. Not luckily started to fail, but like for Star Wars fandoms, it started to fail, so we can learn from their mistakes.
They started to make these mistakes, and I'm hoping people are going to learn about it because, like you said, like 2008 to whenever Endgame was, 2018, those 10 years. I mean, Marvel was untouchable. I mean, they could do no wrong. Every single movie that they turned out was just absolutely fantastic, and then ever since then, it's like 50-50 with it being okay or just bad.
Yeah, I mean, even then, even when you're saying that you're from those 10 years, they can turn on anything. But like, I still don't love the first Thor. I don't mind Dark World for some reason. I don't know why, but like, I don't like the first Thor. I don't like Iron Man 2 or 3. But at the same time, at that time, you're excited to see those characters, and you're able to spend 2 hours with them because that's the only other way you're going to get any sort of superhero content.
Yeah, not to make this too much about the MCU, but that was also very early on in the MCU, and I feel like we didn't have a whole lot to compare it to at the time because I feel like those movies came out and we were like, okay, that was fun. It wasn't as good as like the first Iron Man or something, and then like once the first Avengers came out, maybe after that is when they really started to kind of turn everything up.
Exactly. Anyway, getting away from the MCU and kind of these thoughts, Knights of the Old Republic trailer. Speaking of Knights of the Old Republic, I keep talking about it consistently. Luke, you texted me earlier about this.
Yes, the Knights of the Old Republic was expected to have a remaster for the PS5. It was announced in 2021 with a short little teaser trailer that got a lot of people really excited. It's a very beloved game. I've never played it because I don't care for single player games, but I was going to play the remaster, so I was bummed to see that Sony has scrubbed it from the internet. They deleted their tweets about it. They made the video trailer on YouTube private, and they didn't say anything. They just are trying to hope it silently disappears and no one ever thinks about it again, which is not working out because everyone noticed and everyone was talking about it on Twitter. And then I saw, I'll pull up the direct quote, a Sony spokesperson came out and said, as part of normal business, we delist assets with licensed music when the licenses expire. That was their quote. The rest is from the article. So they're claiming that it was a licensing thing, but the only music in the trailer is Star Wars music from Disney. It's like, now I'm just pissed off. Like, you remove this and then you hope we don't notice. And then when we do, you try to insult us by talking about some stuff you think we don't know anything about. Like, that is not what happened, and everyone knows it.
Classic Danny Masterson or Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis with Danny Masterson. Yeah, it is super upsetting, especially since that is such a beloved game, and all of a sudden they're like hyping people up. Like, I was just talking about it. I'd be excited to revisit the game. It's been a very long time since I've played it.
Was there an expected release date?
No,
they just released this trailer without an expected release date.
They do that with video games all the time.
But they're claiming that the licensing was only, for a couple of months, but they released this trailer for it anyway, knowing that they were going to lose this license. So they just consciously decided, like, you know what, we'll put out this trailer way ahead of time, and it's only going to be out for like 3 months. No, of course they didn't do that. I agree. That doesn't make any sense.
How about Star Wars Eclipse, though, right? Like, that game was released a year or 2 years ago?
Yeah,
or
same story. Because that's how video game releases go. They announce it after the first table read of elevator pitch, and then the CEO comes out and he's like, "Oh, we got to announce it, get the buzz going." And then it's like 6 years until it gets released, and then it gets canceled 2 years into development. And the same thing happened with Star Wars 1313.
Yeah.
A slew of other video games. The whole industry is either announce your video game 6 years early or announce it like 2 months early, which I think is also severely flawed.
And even the
Yes.
ones that do come out end up getting panned because I remember the huge debacle over Battlefront 2 and how
Oh, yeah.
there was a lot of pay to play. Like I think there was like a lot of skins that they were charging people for, and like you could have unlocked Darth Vader by playing the equivalent of like 2 years or something
It
like
was
that.
something absurd. That was the single most downvoted post on Reddit history still today.
That's a really interesting fact.
But the
What
even
was-
more frustrating part.
Fill me in though, because I'm trying to recall the details of that story.
No, you're about right. It was just they included way too many microtransactions, and they put all of the playable heroes and villains behind steep
No.
challenge or paywall.
It was the comments from who did that? Was that EA?
Yeah, it was EA that said we wanted to give our players a sense of pride and accomplishment
Yes.
to unlock these characters.
And everyone flamed him for it.
And everyone said that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah.
So they're like, that's why you made it to the equivalent of like you have to play for 2 years before you can unlock this, because you want to give people pride and accomplishment when they unlock it. But
Or
at the
pay
same
for
time,
it.
they're saying, or you could just give us $20.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the most insincere,
And
And
it's so frustrating. 'cause at the same
predatory
time,
microtransactions.
Battlefront 2 came out in 2017, and it was a live service game for, I think, 5 years. I think last year was the last update, and they have stopped updating it now since. But it is now a great game. Like, they did continuous updates, free DLCs and stuff, and got rid of all the microtransactions. And Battlefront 2 today is a spectacular game, and so many people still won't give it a shot because they remember all of that horrendous PR. They say no, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Go tell that to EA. It sacked this game.
I just played. Remember, during a winter break, I believe, when we were in college, I went over your parents' house when we played it. I think Luke, you were gone or something, and I think it was your version of it.
Yeah,
That was a blast.
fun.
I just played it a couple months ago, and I agree, it's a lot of fun. I think it was on Game Pass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think something about like the TV and movie industry, this is saying a lot. I feel like is you can at least rely on them, right? A little bit. Like the game industry makes no sense left or right to me, because things take so long to develop. I mean, look at Bethesda, for example, right? Like with Fallout or Skyrim. Skyrim came out in 2012. And there's been, I don't know, 8 different releases for it, whether it's like, it's on the Switch, there's a VR version, and yet there's no word of like the next Elder Scrolls game. And it's like, well, GTA came out in 2013, 10
Yeah.
years ago, and there's no word. I mean, people like, speculate that it's going to come out in 2024, 2025, but it's like, I know that stuff's incredibly complicated to make, but like, what is going on?
I know, it's to the point where it just sucks all of my enthusiasm out of it, because that Star Wars Eclipse trailer for a video game to be released in an undisclosed number of years from now
Yes.
has a fantastic trailer.
One
it
of the
looks
best.
so cool.
Yes.
And then I see it's a video game, and I'm like, it's never going to exist. What's the point of getting excited? You see these news articles, I feel like every month, about a new Star Wars game in development, and there's always 10 Star Wars games in development. It's one of the most popular IPs in the world, and video games, a massive industry. They're always trying to make a Star Wars game work. We don't need to hear about every single rough pitch that you hear in these meetings.
Moving on from Knights of the Old Republic, the Galactic Cruiser just had sailed its last voyage, I think as of this record, 2 days ago at Disneyland in Florida.
That's sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something that
Short-lived.
none of us have experienced. But I think, I don't know about you, but I really wanted to. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of good things going for it and a lot of things wrong with it, right? A lot of things going for it is that it looks like the ultimate Disney thing or the ultimate Star Wars thing you could do, right? It's only Disney could really provide that. Let's be real, right? It's like for that quality. I mean, you can go around, you can interact with different characters and the ship, and it's like a show, and it's you can kind of pick and choose, and you have different entrances and exits to Batu, and it feels like you're actually on a mission.
It's interactive. There's
Yes.
role playing. There's like secrets on board that you can do, and there's like a story that you can follow. And every single thing about it just seems so far up all of our alleys. Like that is something that we
Yes.
would all absolutely love. We are the
Yup.
prime demographic for that. And then they're like, and it's only like 2 nights, and it costs like $2,500, and that's where everyone's like, oh. Okay,
Right.
I'll think about it.
Yeah, and because that's not including travel or anything, and it's like who's going?
Right,
to
you
Disney
still have
for
to get
2
there.
days? Yeah, and then it's like that's 2 days, right? But it's like you get there on the first day, so it's technically not a full day. And then the second day, you're like, okay, well, I not have to go to bed early because I have to wake up and do like I have a 7 a.m. flight. So then it's like really, it's like you have a couple hours, and it's like in theory, it's the perfect thing. The only downside is that it's attached to a theme park. Honestly, like the whole thing is like, yeah. It's attached to about 2, but how much better and cheaper would it be if it's by its own singular thing? I'm just like, man, if I could go there
That'd be interesting.
for a night, or even honestly, not even a night, it'd be great if it was like a laser tag-esque arena, like that big, and you're able to go there for a day and just basically role play Star Wars for a full day.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of all I want, and there's nothing there that has been able to touch that anywhere near it. But it's it's failed. Like they also have a cocktail there that's like $2,000 or something. It's like, who is this
Oh,
for?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's like when they release that, it's like, but that's not a brag. That is like, that's being like, I don't know, it's being blind to who your fan base is and also limiting your fan base to whoever can afford here can go here. And it's not even who can afford here. Like, I think we could all probably afford to go, but it's like, we're really gonna do that? Like, I don't know. We're like married people with like kids and stuff, and like mortgages and
Just
houses.
takes a
and
lot
lawns
of time to pull our trigger on. Like I feel like whenever we would talk about it, we always kind of talked about it in the context of like, oh, when we do this someday. Like
Yes.
I feel like we all agreed that like we should and would do it someday. It's just something that like because it's so expensive, you kind of have to put a lot of thought and preparation into it before
A
you
lot
can
of convincing.
and a lot of convincing of wives and stuff. But it just takes a lot of time before you pull the trigger on that. That's something that me and a former coworker of mine, Chris, used to talk about a lot.
get
And
fired?
we would have no.
Former
Kidding, sorry.
coworker.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I don't work there anymore. I took a new job, so I'm not there.
Sorry, you paused and I was like, oh my God, did he actually get fired?
But he always talked about wanting to go there with his kids, and when that was announced, he texted me, and it was a bummer.
Well,
He
but
was
I
like
gonna
just
say-
making his trip. I think he was supposed to go like early
Oh,
next year or
no.
something.
So I was gonna say not the goal, but in my head I was like, when I turn 30, I'd love to go to the Galactic Cruiser, and then I turned 30 in this past July of 2023, and then I think I was like, just like thinking about it maybe a little bit, a little bit earlier, and I think like that week I was like, maybe I will actually start planning this. It was like, the Galactic Cruiser is setting sail for the final time in September, and it's like instead of me wanting to be like, I gotta rush to go do this before it's closed, I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. Like who again? If we,
Right.
the three of us, have not gone and done this, like who has?
And I'm sure they thought about this beforehand, like in all of their business plans and everything. They talked all about like expected revenue and stuff. It is just jarring to see something last so short.
In
I mean,
Star
it's been
Wars
out.
too.
How long was this out for? It was out for almost a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not out for very long. And the last thing that I want to say about the Star Cruiser, the Halcyon, is the comic book tie-in called Halcyon
yeah,
Legacy.
yeah.
I have it on my wall right there. I wonder if that's going to go up in value now because of this.
It might go
But-
down.
It's a 5-issue miniseries, and it's called the Halcyon Legacy, and it's about the legacy of the Halcyon, and it's told through this perspective of a traveler who's hearing all of these stories from a droid on board, who is telling these stories from all the previous voyages, dating all the way back to the time of the High Republic. There's an issue during the prequel trilogy, during the original trilogy, and it just like spans all across time. And the whole message of the story is just how long the Halcyon has been around for, and how like
I thought you were gonna say how much you should go and pay to stay at the Halcyon.
well, I mean, that's the unintended, or that's very intended. Yes, that's what they're trying to do. But no, like the whole message is like how, like, oh, no matter what, I think there's like pirates or First Order or something boarding. I don't know I forget what the actual story was, but the droid was basically trying to calm the nerves of this young passenger, saying like, listen, this thing has been around for a very long time. It's going to be around for a lot longer. You got nothing to worry about with the Halcyon. And it's probably going to be one of the most ironic comics in Star Wars history now.
Hindsight. The other thing is like that's jarring is that they weren't even like, let's just cut the price by like $1,000 to see what happens. They're like, nope, back it up.
Yeah.
If it was-
It did seem expensive because you got like full-time cast members on board. You got to pay them.
Yeah.
Like it did look like it had a steep overhead on
Yes.
as a business venture. So I'm not surprised they couldn't operate it off any less. But design it differently then.
I know.
You got to know that's not sustainable.
Offer different packages, different prices. Like I feel like even MoviePass tried different
Yes.
even different pricing options when everyone knew that was tanking.
Have you ever seen a Star Wars movie? Always have a failsafe. Like, don't Rogue One yourself. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus. Just like a man hindsight. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but that happened last month. And so, no, last month? Did it happen a couple weeks ago? I said it was a couple days ago. I thought it was September, actually.
I don't know when the
I
exact
think the last voyage.
is.
I think the last voyage was this past weekend. As of recording it, as of this coming out,
Okay.
I think it would have been like 2 weeks ago.
Also, think about, like, the dwindling numbers. Can you imagine being on that set and there's a bunch of actors and there's like 4 people amongst the crew that were sleeping there? It's like,
Yeah.
this is kind of weird, actually. I don't know if I want this. Again, drop the price. Anyway, moving on. Let's see, what do we have next? Oh, we talked about the Skeleton Crew. This kind of can be a shorter one, but the Lando show. Much like we've talked about, guys, the Lando show is now a Lando movie.
Very happy.
I don't think it means that much in
What?
terms of likelihood to actually see the light of day. I think
You think it's still like 50-50 we'll ever see anything?
Yeah, slightly way less than 50-50. I think Donald Glover
Slightly
and
way
his
less.
brother, who are apparently the ones writing it,
They are
were workshopping it, and they said, this would probably be better as a movie, actually. And then they texted Kathleen Kennedy, and she gave him a thumbs up. Like, yeah, just give me something. And then they got out to the press, and they're like making a big story, like, oh, it's now a movie. I think it's still in its very young infancy, and it's not likely to come out anytime soon, let alone at all.
I disagree. I think because Stephen Glover and Donald Glover are a part of it, the fact that Stephen Glover's a part of it as well, the last thing they would have done together would be Atlanta, which is a huge hit. So this is a huge win for Star Wars. It's not like Taika Waititi, who's got some hits and misses there, right? It's like Donald Glover is moving more into like producing and stuff. And
Taika Waititi was a hit at the time when they gave him a movie, and then
so has gone.
I don't want to give bad omens for
That's
Donald
true.
and Stephen Glover.
Steven's
but
going to get the Star Wars curse now. The next thing he does is going to be a flop, and then they're going to say, you know what? We're actually shelving the Lando
the deck's
project.
kind of stacked against him too, because I think it's at least 10 years before this movie comes out, if ever.
Well, like we were just
There-
saying with Bob Iger's recent comments, he was saying he's going to start pumping the brakes on some of this content, right? And we already know, I think farther ahead in production are these other slate of 3 films that they already announced, which is James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, which again,
Never coming out.
yeah, we're suspicious that one's going to come out in light of the reception for the newest Indiana Jones movie. There's the Rey movie, and there's Dave Filoni's Ahsoka /Mando verse movie. And so all 3 of those, I think, have a better chance of coming out than the Lando movie. And so this is like kind of like the 4th movie that they have lined up now.
Yeah.
And given Bob Iger's comments about how they're going to start slowing the brakes or pumping the brakes, yeah, I'm suspicious.
That's what I think. I think they are pumping the brakes by giving it a movie and not a show. I also think Stephen Donald Glover is so busy. I don't know if you saw recently, but they're moving production of the Community movie to Atlanta and not L.A. so that Donald Glover can be part of that movie. And I think he's just hunkered in Atlanta, writing away for his next projects. And I think being a movie is going to be able to tell that story more concisely. And I think they learned from Kenobi a little bit, even though Kenobi, we here all liked Kenobi. I think we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, but it could have been much better served as a movie versus a miniseries. And I think they're kind of learning from that as well, to be like, oh yeah, maybe making things 6 episodes so you're staying with characters longer isn't better. Maybe it's just whatever serves the story. So I have hope for the movie, the fact that it's a movie and not a show. When it was a show, I would have been like, I don't think it's going to be made potentially, right? But I think that the fact that it's a movie, it gives a little bit more legs, and the fact that Steven and Donald Glover are both running it together as the writing duo like they did in Atlanta, I think it's got legs.
And the thing that I do like about it, if it does come out, I feel like a Lando movie would be more of a spiritual successor to the Solo movie. And everyone wants Solo 2. I don't think Solo 2 is going to happen. I don't know if Lando is going to have anything to do with the events of Solo or have anything to do with Kira or Maul. It certainly could. If I were to guess, I would say it probably doesn't. But
I think it will.
The idea of a spiritual successor to Solo does make me happy.
Yeah, I agree.
I would love to be proven wrong, but I just feel I'm not like deflated as a fan. Like my love for Star Wars is still at a peak, but I'm just getting so tired of them announcing all these video games and all these movies and all these TV shows. It's like, just shut up. Give me something if you're going to give me something. If not, just be quiet.
All right, we got a couple more topics here. We already talked about Skeleton Crew, but the Living Force book. Luke, this is one that you also texted me about.
Yes, that was announced during Ahsoka's runtime. It is written by John Jackson Miller, who's a Star Wars veteran, and it is about the Jedi Council in the Phantom Menace era going on a mission. So that's really all I know, but that's all I need to know because I love the Jedi from that era, and we don't get enough of any of them. Let's like Yarl Poof, Oppo Rancisis, Yaddle, a lot of great Jedi that we only ever see designs of outside of the High Republic. Those three in particular have all made pretty cool appearances in the High Republic, but I am so excited to see more from them.
And you know I love Yaddle. I'm a big Yaddle fan.
And I think a lot of people are excited for John Jackson Miller to do it, right? Because I think he was a big author in a lot of the Legends books too.
I'm pretty sure that he's written at least one canon book. I think he wrote A New Dawn, with the Hera and Kanan book.
That's canon. Yeah.
Yeah. But he wrote the Kenobi book, which I know is very beloved in the Legends community.
Yes. Yep.
But I'm excited for this book. I get excited for a lot of books and then I don't end up reading them, but I'm really going to make an effort to read this one because I'm excited about these characters. One
of the best Star Wars books I read recently was the Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah S. Dawson. It was very good. And one of the reasons that was one of the reasons I was interested in that book was because it had nothing to do with anything coming out. A lot of times they have stuff that's like a tie-in to like, oh, this is like a lead up to this movie or a tie-in to this TV show or the Halcyon Legacy. This is promoting our Star Cruiser, you know? And that one was just kind of like, it was its own independent story and it didn't have anything to do with anything. And so I was like, okay, I feel like the possibilities are endless and I really like that prospect of it. And I feel like that's the case for this one too. Going back to the Phantom Menace era, I don't think there's anything there that they're trying to tie into. Maybe a tie-in to like the tail end of the High Republic era, but
maybe that, I doubt it. But the thing I always worry about, which is why I love, part of the reason I love the High Republic so much, is plot armor that's inherent in most of the Star Wars books because it's about the characters from the Skywalker saga that you know how they end up, and it's not in this book. At least two examples, Yarl Poof and Oppo Rancisis are in the High Republic and in the Phantom Menace, and then not in Attack of the Clones. So we really don't know how their story ends up, but they are suspiciously not in the prequels anymore after the Phantom Menace.
And Yaddle.
Yaddle also, but we saw her story in Tales of the Jedi.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
And as a quick plug, go listen to Max's Rogue One about Rise of the Red Blade.
Yeah, I did not read that book, but I also quite like it because of that Rogue One.
Thank you.
So worst case, give a listen here. So on full display, the next one we have to talk about is Master and Apprentice, but to be honest, I did not have time to watch it today like I planned to, and I also feel like that would be a lot better for a couple of weeks when we do a rewatch of Ahsoka or like Ahsoka wrap-up thoughts. So do you guys mind waiting for the thoughts? Not to...
Yeah, I don't need to talk about it. There's not much to talk about.
Listen, I'm just kidding. No, I know. You've already texted that. We've already talked about it, but...
Don't want to give away too much. I actually have a lot to talk about, and it's going to be super interesting. Wait for our next episode.
Stay tuned.
We're all going to wear Dave Filoni cowboy hats. Yes. Can't we really set the listener up for that episode?
Next on Force for Thought.
Yeah, the Master Apprentice. And the last one I have here, guys, I guess I have two more things. The last one I've written down is the new Black Series figures that are coming out and also Sideshow collectibles. Does anybody have anything to say off the top of their heads for this? Because I have...
Oh, yeah, big time. The ghost ship, the HasLab,
yes,
that got funded recently. Oh, I am super pumped about it.
When's it shipping?
I don't think it's for a while still. But for those
you could have said when is it docking, when is it landing? Man, Luke, you really messed up there.
For those of you who don't know, Hasbro, who makes a lot of the Star Wars action figures, has these projects that they call HasLabs, where it's like these huge, expensive toys that they can't really mass produce cost efficiently. So they have these HasLabs where they basically say like, hey, this is what we're making. If we get a certain amount of backers for it to guarantee its funding, we're going to make it just for you guys, basically. So it's only for the people that back it. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they don't. Some of the successful HasLabs in the past was the Katana, which is Jabba's sail barge, and the Razor Crest is another big one.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did a couple more that failed. There was a 6-inch scale Rancor, which no one was really interested in, and their biggest kind of miss was an Inquisitorius lightsaber. It was Riva's. It was Riva's lightsaber, I think.
I thought it was the Grand Inquisitor.
I think it was Riva's. It was one of the two, and it was coming. It was announced like right after the first episode of Solo, and I think
Kenobi.
They were Kenobi. Yeah, excuse me. And I think they were really expecting a big reaction to Kenobi that would help kind of sell this thing, and I feel like it just wasn't like as enthusiastic as they thought. No, it was Riva. I'm almost confident that it's Reva.
I was gonna drop it,
Because-
but now I'm gonna look it up because I'm almost confident it was the Grand Inquisitor.
Because I don't know if I should proceed until I hear more about this.
Oh, keep going. I'm googling it.
All right. Well, I think part of the reason it failed was because Reva's character in particular in that show, people didn't really resonate with a whole lot. And it was a very underutilized lightsaber. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't see Reva use her double-sided lightsaber a whole lot. She actually never uses her lightsaber in combat, except for against Darth Vader, in which he basically bests her without ever igniting his own lightsaber.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's really a very underutilized prop in Star Wars, and it was so expensive. I think it was like $800 or something kind of
Whoa.
crazy like that. And it had a lot of features that they were really proud of, but
You
no
just
one.
do Kenobis.
Well, they already.
Those been done to death, I guess.
Yeah,
with
there's already other Kenobi lightsabers that they have.
the elite ones and stuff.
It does seem like it was Reva's. I stand corrected. I'm sorry.
Whew, thank goodness.
Yeah, because he just went on
Otherwise,
a
we would
rant.
have had to edit all that out. So anyway, so they announced the most recent HasLab, which was the Ghost. It's a vintage collection, which means that it's part of the 3 3/4 inch line Ghost, but it's a massive ship. I mean, I think it's like 3 feet by 4 feet or something like that. I was super excited about it. It's $500. It was fully backed within like a day, and there's like different tiers where it's like, oh, if we get this many backers, we'll also throw in this for free, and then this for free, and all the tiers.
But all the tiers were super cool, right?
Yeah, it was
Big
all
current
Rebels Ghost Crew action figures on like exclusive card backs and stuff,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. And all of them were successfully funded. I got mine, and I'm super excited for it. And yeah, I'll probably have. Well, I can't really do an episode on a toy
Yes,
like that because
you
that's
can.
that's a very visual thing. We'll have to incorporate
work,
visuals
yeah,
somehow.
We'll work
yeah.
it in because that's definitely worth a whole episode, to be honest. And I'm super excited. I'm super bummed I missed out because I already regret it. I think I texted you. I was like, hey, I'm kind of debating doing this, and you're like, hey, this is like the last day, and I was like, there's no way.
That's too
like,
much pressure.
Mentally, I can't.
The ones that have been successfully backed, at least doubled in price, like on the secondary market. So I was really debating speculating on these and getting like a handful.
Don't
but
tell
the
them
most
our
you could get
goal.
is 5, and I didn't want to do that. So I just got the one, but I'm super excited for it.
Looks great.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you to see when it finally docks. And then also, so you're saying HasLab also prepares, unlike the Galactic Cruiser. Just no failsafe.
Well, they try to, but I mean, I guess much like the
If they're
Star
like-
Cruiser, they still have some misses.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
if no one wants it, we're fine with that. But we're not gonna.
Oh, you mean yes?
They have a failsafe.
The system that they
Yeah.
have set up is in and of itself a failsafe because
Wow.
they say like, listen, if you
Yes.
don't want this,
I really
sure.
thought you were gonna get that
Okay.
at the top of the
No,
the top of the
it
show.
took me a while to get there.
All right, we got there. Maybe I'll cut it.
The other Black Series toys that were announced and released during Ahsoka's release schedule was mostly Ahsoka wave, a lot of the characters from the show, and most of them look awesome, except for, regrettably, my favorite character, Shin Hati. Her toy looks like trash.
Yeah.
It is extremely disappointing.
I gotta Google it again just to see.
Yeah, go ahead and Google it at home if you're listening, but the face mold and the hair and the lightsaber is blood red and not orange, and it's just big miss on a toy. I'm pretty disappointed with it.
To be honest, the Black Series is something that I never really fully like collected. Like Luke, the ones you gave me, I absolutely love it. That's something that I kind of want to like maybe get more into. But yeah, this is a bad face mold. But like, there's something about that like little bit of like disbelief, like suspension of disbelief for these action figures for some reason. And part of me is just like, there's so many good ones that like part of me is that it is hard to suspend that disbelief where I'm just like, but why is the face mold like that? Like,
I know. It's really interesting collecting them because some of them, like Shin Hati, it's a character that I really, really like, but the toy is just so bad. And then the Morgan Elsbeth toy, the character is pretty medium for me. I wouldn't look for her toy if it wasn't such a great looking toy. I do want it because it's a
Yep.
great face mold and it looks like a fun toy.
And the two real quick thing on toy wise, I don't know if anybody's interested, / anybody saw this, but I saw Ollie's, the bargain outlet, has Trapper Wolf helmets for $30.
Oh yeah, that's a great place to go for Black Series anything. They have a lot of stuff there for good discounts.
I stop at most Ollie's I see looking for them.
Is Ollie's everywhere?
No, I get excited when I see one.
Yeah, I always associate
I
it.
only recently learned that there is one in Columbus.
There
near
is,
us.
yes. I only associate it with really a Northeast Ohio thing, but it's got to expand a little further than that. I
I
assume.
forget where I was. I drive to St. Louis from Ohio pretty often, and there's at least one on that track. So
Interesting. Yeah.
Last thing I have to talk about for the Black Series toys is the Marok action figure. It looks really cool. I think I might get one, but it's interesting because Marok's armor is like, it's pretty rusted if you look at images and stills of it, but the Black Series toy, they really emphasize that. Like there's like a lot of orange in his armor.
I saw
and I
that.
think a lot of people didn't realize that his armor was rusty until they saw that toy. And they
Yep.
were like, why is this orange? And then
Yeah.
they went back and they're like, oh, I guess he's kind of rusty.
Yeah. The Black Series really likes to embellish, I think, those things too.
Yeah.
The last thing that I have is the Sideshow collectible series of the Ahsoka show. They've been dropping these over the past few weeks, and they look spectacular. The Sabine Wren one looks amazing.
I would love to know what the technology is that goes into making these toys and models, because the
Time.
sideshow collectibles are absolutely perfect.
Yep.
I don't get how that technology can be so perfect for mass production.
It's well, that's the thing. I don't think it is superly mass produced. I mean, it's like you have to when you
that
order
makes
them.
sense.
Yeah,
They are limited.
Yep. And so like there's a lot of like the wait list is open on a lot of these.
And they're expensive. I mean, how much? I think it's like at
270
hundred.
usually is what we're looking at for like the Ahsoka one, which is completely sold out, and then the Sabine one I believe has waitlist open. But they just dropped Chopper, and in Chopper's photo, they clearly took the photo together with Hera. And I know I texted you guys this when that came out, and I think I'll get the Hera one because I love Hera. I'd be very interested in seeing that hot toy, the Sideshow collectible rather, and I think they're just dropping these little by little, and I'm a little surprised they're not dropping them. Like, just say there's like 7 of them. Would you not drop them with every episode, like the day after? Be like, hey, look at this look at this one. Like they have.
I don't know.
They have.
maybe
quite a
that would be
bit so
blowing
far.
it too soon. Maybe that goes back to everything we're saying about the video games, where they're like, "Hey, let's not promote this too much yet. Like we're still working on this back here."
That's true. Well, that being said, I texted about this a little bit ago, and the fact that like the Kit Fisto sideshow I thought was a newer thing, but you said 2019 Comic-Con, I believe. I also looked it up and saw.
You got one, didn't you, from Star Wars Celebration?
That was from the prequel era. That's a 20-year-old toy. They
Oh.
released a new mold, a new design on the Kit Fisto Sideshow collectible, and I do really want it. I emailed them for
The waitlist?
updates, and
Nothing.
we'll see. Been a couple of years, and I heard crickets.
Yeah, and we said we wouldn't sell out earlier to Burger King, but Sideshow, anything with the Hasbro Lab series or Black series, we are open for business. We will start video for you. And the last thing I have to, I guess, is like, it feels like since all the Ahsoka stuff and hype has been happening, we've gotten quite a fan base now. So thanks everybody for listening as well. I feel like we've gotten some really, really nice comments, which has made our day, and feel like we're not talking into an empty void. Or again, the whole reason we did this podcast was to talk to each other about it, since the three of us unequivocally love Star Wars, and nothing's really going to break that mold, and we consistently talk about stuff, and it feels like a nice place to be able to talk to each other about this. So I think we're obviously super open and welcome to talk to anybody else about this stuff too. Not that you can be a co-host, but you can always leave comments or emails or anything.
And please do. It really does make us feel good about doing this, because the truth is we'd be doing this even if no one else was listening, because this is just what we do with our lives. But it feels really good that people are listening.
Yes.
And if you are new to the show, we promise we don't usually talk about Burger King this much.
No, but we might start, because I think we had a lot of fun with it.
I don't want Burger King.
we'll have a
again
new
for
segment.
At least a long
The
time.
new segment is every week we'll just review a new fast food restaurant for the first 5 minutes and then go into Star Wars stuff.
Does anyone have any force for thought?
I do have force for thought. I was reading a Star Wars ABC book recently, and G was for General Grievous, which is kind of lame, but it was a big picture of General Grievous, and he's holding his 2 lightsabers, not 4. And I realized, staring at this picture, did you know that General Grievous has 6 fingers? Because when he goes to 4 arms, his 2 arms split in 2, and then when he has 4 arms out, they each have 3 fingers on the hand.
Whoa.
Does he
no,
have 4
I did
fingers
not.
and 2 thumbs?
Yes. He has 4, and they articulate the other way. So he has 4 fingers that all bend the same way like we do, and then a thumb on either end that bends the other way. So when he splits them in half, he can still grip around the whole lightsaber with 2 hands. 2 different hands.
Somebody in when did Revenge of the Sith come out? 2005. Somebody in 2005 really put a lot of research into
I
that.
always see like behind the scenes stuff of the prop makers and costume designers and creature design about all of the effort and thought that everyone puts into every little detail. And I always think like, is it worth it? Like, is anyone going to notice? And this is the first time I've actually noticed something. I mean, it's 18 years after the fact, so I don't really know if they're going to get their praise for it like they deserve. But
I'm sure whoever
I am
designed
so
General
excited
Grievous
to
is
see
listening to this podcast. He's sitting in his basement right now yelling, "Vindication!"
with a couple of tears rolling down their cheeks. I guarantee you.
It was really exciting to see. And I thought
love
about it, I was
that.
like, 6 fingers, that's weird. Well, no, that makes sense. And I Googled another picture to see if he always has 6 fingers, and I kept seeing the ones with 4 arms. I'm like, no, he has 3 fingers. And I had this, oh, wow moment where I was like, wait a minute.
That's amazing. That's why I think Star Wars is worth coming back to, because there's such little details like that you can consistently see too.
Yeah.
Man, love Star Wars. All right, everybody. I think that was it, right? I think that's this episode. We have nothing else. We have to watch Ahsoka. We're behind now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go watch Ahsoka so that we can give you our review, which is weird because you're going to be listening to this the week after that actually comes out. But regardless, if you have anything you want to say, add, feel free to comment, reach out to us. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, the whole shebang.
Try Threads. And I'm going to make my last predictions of not seeing Ahsoka, so this will be a week later. I think we're going to get Zeb appearance. All right. That's the end. No talking back.
We'll see.
See you, Sammy.